It is July 13th, 2024, and you are listening to Sports Chowder with me, Sam Stebbins. Today I'll be talking about, of course, the pending sale of the majority stake of the Boston Celtics, as well as some Celtics contract extensions, some Bill Belichick news, and more. Stay tuned. It is really ironic that as soon as I alter my release schedule for the summer, the biggest story in regards to the Boston Celtics, besides them winning the championship, drops. On Monday, July 1st, it was announced that the majority owners of the Boston Celtics, who are represented by Celtics Governor Wyc Grousbeck, are planning to sell their stake in the team. The plan right now is to sell the majority of the majority this year or by early 2025, with the balance closing in 2028. And the plan is for Wyc Grousbeck to remain as the governor of the Celtics until the second closing in 2028. Now, the reason behind this sale is that H. Irving Grousbeck, who is Wyc's father, and who is the money behind the majority ownership, is wanting to get his affairs in order. This makes a lot of sense. I mean, the team is worth $4.7 billion. So, yeah, if you want to get some liquid cash for your family, this would be the asset to sell first. Now, as soon as the news broke, I saw all kinds of interesting ideas and theories about who could buy this majority stake in the Celtics. You know, some people threw out the Fenway Sports Group, which of course owns the Boston Red Sox, Robert Kraft, Jeff Bezos, Tom Brady, and some others, but those are the main ones. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I don't think it will be any of those individuals or groups. As I've said before on this show, I believe the Fenway Sports Group is very interested in owning an NBA team in Las Vegas, whether that be through an expansion team or relocating a struggling team in a smaller market. LeBron James wants to own a Vegas team. He is a part owner of the Fenway Sports Group. I don't think he wants to own the Celtics. So I don't think Fenway Sports Group will buy this majority stake. As for Robert Kraft and his family, I think they have other things going on in their life. Robert's son, Josh, is eyeing a run for mayor of Boston in 2025. Now, I will not get into that. I am not a resident of Boston, but it's a very interesting story for sure. As for Tom Brady, he does not have the money by himself for this majority stake. He's a very rich man, of course. He has a lot of sponsorships. He's made a lot of money with his investments and, of course, his playing career, but that is not nearly enough to own the majority of the Boston Celtics. I mean, his deal to buy a very small stake in the Las Vegas Raiders is still pending approval, so I'm not sure he's interested in buying any other parts of a major sports team anytime soon. As for Jeff Bezos, he clearly has the money to buy this majority stake, but I feel like if he were to buy a team, it would be in Washington, D.C. For one thing, he has a big house there, and he owns the Washington Post. He also tried to buy the Washington Commanders a year or two ago, and that didn't work out. Or Miami, which is his primary residence, so I don't see him having interest in a Boston team. I believe the most likely scenario is that Celtics co-owner Stephen Pagliuca buys the majority stake. He is the co-chairman of Bain Capital, and he has the money and he has the interest in buying this stake. So yes, it's boring, it's anticlimactic, but I think it's ideal. He will likely keep things as they are and keep us winning games and contending for championships for years to come. So I hope that is what happens. In other Celtics news, both Jason Tatum and Derek White have signed some massive contract extensions. Tatum signed a 5-year deal worth up to $315 million, which is the largest in NBA history, breaking the record set by Jaylen Brown last offseason. Now, the best part of this, besides having Jason locked down for 5 years, is that I think he'll do some good with this money. He's already done some good stuff to help less fortunate people, and I just know he'll use some of this money to help others. So I think that's great. Now, the announcement of Tatum's contract came a little bit later than I expected, but I was still very happy when the news broke. I never doubted that Tatum would come back, but I was kind of like, okay, the clock is ticking. Free agency has been happening for a while now. What's up? And then, of course, the news we had been expecting all year broke. And I'm no less happy than I would be if the news broke as soon as free agency started. So that's great. I'm really happy that Brad Stevens and Tatum's people made that deal work out. Now, Derek White has signed a 4-year contract extension worth up to $125.9 million. And of course, I'm very happy about that. Derek White has proved to be a pivotal part of our team, and I think he'll be a contributor for years to come. Now, I'm really not sure what kind of financial wizardry the Celtics front office has practiced to have a payroll this huge, but I deeply appreciate it. It took time, but the Celtics built something special, and I think they have already been rewarded richly for it. Now, my final Celtics story for this episode involves the Olympic men's basketball team. On Wednesday, it was announced that Kawhi Leonard would be leaving the Olympic squad as he and his team, the LA Clippers, decided it would be better for him to prepare for the coming season instead of playing at the games in Paris. And of all people, Derek White was brought in to replace him. He joins Jason Tatum and Drew Holiday as Celtics representatives on Team USA. Now, one thing people immediately question is, why wasn't Jaylen Brown brought in to the Olympic squad? Now, the answer is that there is some tension between Nike and Jaylen Brown, and that may have played into it. I won't comment on that, that is their business, but I'm going to focus on being happy for Derek White. I think he will do really well. I think he and this Olympic team will bring home the gold, and the 3 Celtics will be a driving force in that victory. I mean, this team is awesome. I think it's really going to be an Olympic squad for the ages. You have LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Tyrese Halliburton, and others who are great too. So this should be a really great Olympics, and I'm very, very hyped. Moving on to the Patriots, it looks like our newly drafted quarterback, Drake May, made a very positive impression on the New York Giants. In a clip from the HBO series Hard Knocks, Giants head coach Brian Daboll is shown quizzing May on football terminology during a pre-draft interview. The conversation flowed very easily, and May answered questions quickly and accurately. At one point, he even shrugged and said, "Easy stuff." In a different clip, the Giants' general manager is shown talking about his interest in trading for the Patriots' number 3 pick. Thankfully, that did not happen, as we all know, but it is very validating to hear that the Giants had this much interest in Drake May. The fact that they wanted the number 3 pick to choose Drake May tells me that there is something real with Drake May. There is real potential, there is real talent, there is real football knowledge with Drake May. Now, I will say, him shrugging and saying easy stuff does come off as a little overconfident, but one story you might have heard if you're a Patriots fan is that when Tom Brady met Robert Kraft, he shook his hand and said, "My name is Tom Brady, and I'm the best decision this organization has ever made." Or something to that effect. I think when you're fighting for a spot on a team, fighting to be seen as someone worth investing in, you have to project confidence. And maybe it kind of gets a little cocky at some point, but when you can back it up, it becomes very legendary. So I hope Drake May can back it up. I think he will. I'm really excited to see what he can do. Moving on to some other football news. On Thursday, it was announced that Bill Belichick would be joining Inside the NFL. He will be co-hosting with Ryan Clark, Chris Long, and Chad Johnson. Now, for me, this is extremely exciting. In my opinion, it's the best Belichick media career development so far. I've been very clear that I'm not a huge Manning cast fan, but that's my personal taste. If you enjoy that, I'm happy for you. And I'm also not a huge fan of Pat McAfee, so I'm really not excited about Belichick's weekly appearances on those shows. But Inside the NFL is something I can really get into. It's professional, it's a studio setting. I think Bill will do really well. I've mentioned this before, but my favorite Bill Belichick off-the-field media appearance is when he was helping unveil the NFL 100th anniversary all-time team. Towards the end, they were unveiling the top quarterbacks of all time, and of course Tom Brady was one of them, and Tom appeared as a surprise guest when he was listed on that all-time team. And he and Tom just sat there and told stories about different plays that were legendary and different games that were difficult to win but really exciting, and it was really amazing. Now, I've seen Tom off the field many times. He has a media career himself. He's been in commercials. He has done more interviews than Belichick ever has. It was no surprise that Tom could talk football. But Belichick being able to talk football in a way that was engaging was news to me at the time, and I was like, wow, he can actually have a personality. He can have an on-camera presence that's not overly fake or overly dour. It was really a revelation to me. It was one of the first times I realized Bill Belichick would do really well on a football studio show. And now he's getting the chance. Now, an interesting thing is that he once coached Chris Long in the 2016 season and Chad Johnson in 2011, although at the time, Johnson was going by Chad Ochocinco. Inside the NFL airs Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern on the CW. It begins August 30th and runs through the Super Bowl. I will be watching it, and I will be very interested to see what kind of stories Belichick has to share to illustrate his points. And now moving on to the Boston Red Sox. Over the past 2 weeks, they have lost a series to the Padres. They swept the Miami Marlins. They won a series against the Yankees 2-1, and they won a series against Oakland this week 2-1. This weekend they have a series against the Royals in Boston. Right now the Red Sox are at number 3 in the American League East at 51-41. They are 5 games behind the second place Yankees and 6 games behind the first place Baltimore Orioles. Once again, not the best place to be, but also far from the worst place to be in baseball right now. Something really interesting was brought to my attention by Twitter user Ryan Martin. Through 90 games, the 2024 Boston Red Sox were 50-40, the same as the 2004 Boston Red Sox. And as you may know, that was the year the Red Sox reversed the curse and won their first World Series in 86 years. Now, this could mean nothing. We won't know until the playoffs roll around if these Red Sox are really contenders. However, it is a very positive thing to note. There was a lot of pessimism going into this season. So it's worth celebrating the fact that the Red Sox are doing much better than many people thought they would, and in fact are doing just as well as the 2004 championship Red Sox were doing at the same time. So this team has some potential. I'm not going to make any bold predictions because I really don't know. However, it gives me reason to still be excited about this season. There is no reason to write it off. In fact, the sky is the limit. And I really want to give credit to our manager, Alex Cora, for the fact that this team has still managed to be competent in areas where that was not expected this year. We can't predict the future. I will not try to. Let's focus on some other positives right now. The Red Sox are sending 3 players to the All-Star Game in Arlington, Texas. We are sending, of course, third baseman Rafael Devers, outfielder Jarren Duran, and pitcher Tanner Houck. I'm happy for all 3 of these guys. They provided some great moments this season. The year always feels better when we send some players to the All-Star Game, so I hope they get to play because they're all reserves, but If not, I'm just glad they have the recognition they deserve. Now, there is one last thing related to the Red Sox I have to talk about. Now, the Red Sox did defeat the Yankees in the 3-game series, but the second game of that series was a rough 14-4 loss. And part of that was because Ben Rice, the Yankees' first baseman, hit 3 home runs in that game. And now, of course, that's painful no matter what. But what makes it so much worse is that Ben Rice actually grew up on the South Shore of Massachusetts. And he grew up a Yankees fan. Can you believe that? Someone from Massachusetts grew up and chose the New York Yankees. Even his siblings preferred the Boston Red Sox, but for some reason he was a Yankees fan growing up and now plays for them. I can't believe it. But the truth is, if you grew up in New England, you always knew the one kid in your class who chose the Yankees just to be a contrarian. I'm thinking of someone right now, but I won't name names. And what makes this even more interesting is that he went to college at Dartmouth, which is in my childhood hometown of Hanover, New Hampshire. So yeah, as much as I dislike this guy, I have to give him credit. He is making the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry much spicier than it has been in a very long time. I feel like the last great moment in the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry was when the Red Sox handed the Yankees their worst postseason defeat in franchise history back in 2018. And the fact is, so many things have changed for the Red Sox that feels like it was 50 years ago. So I hope we can hand Ben Rice and the Yankees some embarrassing defeats in the near future. No matter what, it's very interesting. And again, I hate that he chose the Yankees to be a fan of, and I hate that the Yankees drafted him, but it does make things interesting. And that is worth something. And now, Assorted Awesome, the part of the show where I talk about something that is 100% awesome with no caveats. On Wednesday, it was announced that Jason Tatum would be on the cover of the NBA 2K24 video game. Now, it's been a while since I played NBA 2K. But for this generation, being on the cover of NBA 2K or Madden NFL or any of these officially licensed sports video games is a major form of validation. It's kind of like a modern version of the Wheaties cereal box. I mean, I have to tell you, it actually meant a lot to me when Tom Brady was finally on the cover of Madden NFL. I mean, he was not on the cover until he was 39 years old after he won his 5th Super Bowl ring. That's a long time to wait, but I was like, here is some recognition that he is not some system quarterback, that he is not past his prime, that he actually is still a contender and a living legend. And I feel the same way about Tatum, you know? For some reason, people like to hate on him because he's just kind of casual. He doesn't cause drama. His personality is pretty laid back. And there he is on the cover of NBA 2K. You can't undo that. So I appreciate it. I'm excited that he's going to be on the cover. I think he deserves it. I think, again, it's just a celebration of his greatness and the Celtics team greatness. I wish Jaylen Brown could be next to him on the cover. That would have been the one thing to make this cooler, but recognition for one Celtic to me is recognizing all of them. So, thank you, NBA 2K. You made the right choice. That is all I have for this episode of Sports Chowder. You can follow me on X at StebbensTweets. You can follow the show on X at sports_chowder. You can follow the show on Instagram at sportschowder and like the show on Facebook. Thank you so much for listening. Like always, I appreciate the support. I will return in 2 weeks with another delicious bowl of Sports Chowder, the show that discusses, celebrates, and/or laments the state of Boston sports.